Hello friends, and welcome to this magic house. If we haven't met before, I am Becca, and today we are reviewing the Brady Tarot. I have borrowed this from a friend for this review, and let's take a look at it. So the first thing, nice sturdy box. You can see here in the light, the box is a very matte finish, but the printing on it is this reflective print. So it's all black, matte, and reflective. Taking the lid off. The box itself has this cut on it with the cards inside. The cards have a matte gold finish on the edge. This is a very kind of dull matte gold. This is not like, the Forager's Daughter deck I looked at that was just chrome edges that was so shiny and beautiful. This is also very beautiful, but it's a matte, it's a subtle gold. So we will take these cards out. I will say briefly that this is called the Brady Tarot because the artist's name is Emmy Brady. And the theme of this deck is animals and plants of North America. The artist is not Native American herself, but she does use some Native American imagery in the deck because she thought that how do you address the animals and plants of North America without addressing the native people of North America? So she has included that. There's a lot of more information about that and her thoughts on cultural appropriation, and it's all on her website if you want to look at that. But I think it's a very interesting conversation to have of, what is appropriation, what is honoring, what is an artist allowed to do. I'm not really going to talk about it too much. I'm not Native myself, so I think that is a conversation that other people should be having about this deck. But there is information. The artist definitely has thought about it, and that information is on her website. So, taking a look at the book first, you can see the book is also done in the same way as the box, where the cover is matte and the printing is shiny, so that when the light's not shining on it, it's flat black. The back of the book has the same back of the cards, but just obviously in monochrome shininess. The book itself is written by Rachel Pollack. She is a very well-known tarot author, and the book goes into a lot of detail about each card and the symbolism of the card and why the animal was chosen. There's a lot of information in this book. There's a short information on reading in the back, and there is one spread for you to do in the back. Even the minor arcana, each card has 2 full pages of information about the deck. How to read it, what the artist's inspiration was, what the animals mean. I will be showing a couple of cards as we go through, but at the end of this video, and I'll have the time link in the description, we'll have a full walkthrough if you just want to see all the cards in sequence. So the first thing I'll say is the back of the card. These square frame patterns, or rectangles, these rectangle frame patterns match the frames on the fronts of the cards that we'll see in a minute. I just want to say that this is a very reversible deck. If when you shuffle this, you will not be able to know what your reversals are. So if that is important to you, this deck is very reversible. The finish, I've already mentioned the gold finish. The finish is a very soft matte. I've heard it called rose petal before. My experience with decks of this sort, we'll do a shuffle at the end, but my experience is that they feel really great in the hand. They can stick together when shuffling and manipulating, so that can be an issue with this finish, that it feels lovely, it feels very luxurious, but the cards can get a little bit sticky. So, let's take a look at the cards. So the major arcana, the deck is numbered in the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition with strength as number 8 and justice as number 11. And I won't flip through the cards right now too much. I'll just say the cards that people care about usually, how dark is this deck? I'll just show you, death is some skulls. The devil is a ram, it looks like on a pile of dead owls. Okay. Dead somethings. I'll have to look at what those are. And the tower is this tree struck by lightning with these birds flying away from it. So that's for the major arcana. Those are like the darker deck, the cards that people are generally like worried about. So I'll show you those. She does not use the standard cups, wands, swords, and pentacles in this deck. So fire, instead of wands, is feathers, and all of the wands cards have this red border around the edge. And they all also have words at the bottom. The structure of this deck really reminds me of the Handle deck, where it's numbered like a Rider-Waite-Smith, but it has certain elements of the Thoth deck. Ace of Wands, Inspiration, or Ace of Feathers. All of the minor cards have text on them. I know some people really don't like keywords. I like them. I don't need them in a deck, but I do. I read with a Handle sometimes. I do appreciate the text there sometimes, so yeah. Instead of pages, there are daughters, and instead of knights, there are sons. And then queens are mothers, and kings are fathers. So that's another thing that reminds me of the Handle deck a lot, that they use that same convention. And of course that's also from the Thoth deck, but it doesn't have the numbering of the Thoth deck. That's why it reminds me more of the Handle. The cups are horns, and sometimes they're antlers. It actually does explain in the book that while the artist understands that horns and antlers are different things, they are used interchangeably in this deck for artistic license purpose, and because they kind of use the same purpose behind them. And this has these little blue symbols for waves around these cards. Instead of swords, we have arrows for air, and this has these white lines as a border. I will say that this is a animal-only deck. There are no humans in this deck. And, for other kind of cards people might worry about, 10 of swords or 10 of arrows, this is this possum being killed. It's kind of grim, so if you are looking for a deck that is cute animals, this doesn't, I don't think this is going to be for you. This is a little bit darker than that. I don't have a problem with that. I know a lot of people do, so I bring it up. Our last suit is roots for pentacles, and we have these little orange symbols, which I believe in the book she says there's some sort of burrow, like a groundhog burrow or something, or I'll put the text up, what it says in the book. But so they're roots instead of pentacles because you have the earth element. So one thing I want to point out, not only does the backs of the cards have those same symbols as the borders of the cards, but the major arcana also have those. So the Fool has the white lines of the air, and so does the Magician. The High Priestess has the blue waves of the water. So she has chosen a element that best corresponds to that major arcana card and used it as the border on the major arcana. I know some decks I've seen a whole different border system on the majors, but this way she has reused those patterns from the minor, bringing them into the majors, and I think that's an interesting take on it, to be able to associate the majors and the minors. I think that's interesting. New insight that you might want to learn about the cards, about how someone else associates the elements to the majors. This, I will say, I didn't say at the beginning, this is the second edition. The first edition had white borders. This one, it's not borderless because it does have these black borders with these symbols on it, but it doesn't have the white borders that the first edition does. And I think the cards are a little bit bigger than the first edition. My thoughts on this deck, I really do like the artwork. It's how she did the artwork is she carved, I believe they're linotypes. She carved the black and white artwork out, then printed them on paper, and then hand colored them, and that's where the art came in. So let's give this a shuffle and see how that mat is doing. These are going to be a challenge for my hands. I have very small hands, and these are going to be a challenge. They're quite large. Yeah, like oof. Those are, I can't get a hold of them enough to bridge. Let's see if I can shuffle them from the sides at all. A little bit better. Like I said, I borrowed these from a friend, so I don't want to like shuffle them, try as hard as I can because I don't want to accidentally bend them. But these are, that's a little bit better. I got a little bit of a bridge there. Unfortunately, I think these are just too big for my hands. And that's a me problem. That's not a deck problem. That is, my hands are small. I need small decks. I generally read with the in a tin decks because that's what fits in my hands and I can shuffle them. But yeah, I really do like this deck. I think, the book is, like I said, very informative. There's a lot of information there. It not only teaches you about the tarot, but it teaches you about these animals and plants that have been used in the deck. And if you live in North America, or even if you don't, but especially if you do, then it's really important to understand the native inhabitants of this continent. Specifically, like I said, specifically the animals, because the humans aren't addressed in this deck. So if you have thoughts about that, is this like the bad kind of cultural appropriation? Is this an honoring? Let me know in the comments. Let me know, if you have the earlier version, if you like it, if you like this one better. But I do like this deck. I like the artwork a lot. And I don't think I'll be able to read with it because it doesn't fit in my hands. So that's, to each their own with that. I'm revamping the channel, trying to figure out, what topics and what content I really want to focus on, but I do want to keep doing these tarot reviews. I think they're very useful. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you back.